stream on. Not long one.
Легенди не вмирають, бо не закінчений, де сили світла йдуть напроти темряви. Герої не вмирають, коли настане час, вони повстануть знову на бій в останній раз. Герої моєї раси, 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 герої моєї раси.
I remember some years ago seeing a collage of pictures of all U.S. state governors. And the one thing that stood out to me, that they were all, weak, servile phenotypes, with the exception of two, Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom. Cuomo and Newsom look like killers. Like killers. And it's not going to be Cuomo, so it's Newsom.
Welcome to Мариуполь, Бердянск. Вы увидите реально что-то новое. Вот такие базированные русские города. Уже сегодня мы их за 2 года почистили от говна хохлядского. Поначалу было, знаешь, в Бердянске, когда сели, я себе купил Мерседес 140 на украинских номерах. Сейчас помню, первое это самое. Вот. На заправку заезжали перед городом, перед Бердянском. Доброго вечера, прикладайте вашу картку. Я говорю, а что ты со мной на украинском разговариваешь? А девка стоит. Я говорю, что ты со мной на украинском разговариваешь? Молчит. Я говорю еще раз, что ты со мной на украинском? Я так хочу. Ну, хочешь, ладно. Все, до ближайшего блокпоста отправил в ДВКР. Подвал, поехали отдыхать. Поехали отдыхать на подвале.
тікаю у бігах, де жиється пока весна.
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered. I don't like men no more. I said I like women. Women. I said women. I'm not gay.
In my mind, in my head, this is where we all came from. The dreams we had, the love we shared, this is what we're waiting for. And in my mind, in my head, this is where we all came from. The dreams we had, the love we shared, this is what we're waiting for. In my mind, in my head, this is where we all from. In my mind, in my head, this is where we all from. In my mind, in my head, this is where we all came from. The dreams we had, the love we shared, this is what we're waiting for. In my mind, in my head, this is where we all from. In my mind, in my head, this is where we all from.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is another technically challenged Warcast intro. For those that were here early enough, but we're working on in the background. Yeah, so today we're having a normal stream covering the last 2 weeks of the war, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about what's happened in Volchansk. We're not going to have a Middle East update this week just because there's not much to go over, and catching up the last 2 weeks of one war is enough for me to take care of. What else we got going? It's a fairly short, comparatively speaking, PowerPoint today. It's going to be, again, broad strokes of things, some positional changes that are really worth consequence, and some other videos I want to share with you. What else do we got? Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else really production-wise to share with you guys. D did have an interesting story you might want to share with you guys if you guys weren't here for Radio Ruins shit show yesterday. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, my friend?
Well, yeah, I know. I got a $500 donation. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Let me check on chat. See here, we got Duticus Rex and Random Thoughts in chat. See you guys. Alex will be joining us here in a few. Don't know exactly when. But again, we'll welcome him once he's on the panel here. And do you have anything else before we jump into the briefing this evening?
No, let's go ahead and get right into it.
Sounds good. Let me already have that prepped. Okay, there we go. All right, guys. This is. Oh, and send me the signal once we're ready up on those other two streams there in the background. I'll get those going too once we're clean on the back end there.
Well, Kick's ready. I just gotta do Rumble.
1 second, guys. Let me do some stuff in the background here. Okay, turn that on. All right, so we're gonna be back online on that. Okay. All right. So this is the brief for the last 2 weeks, guys. Up till the very end of June. Okay, so on the Kharkiv front, it's really just been around Volchansk and a couple of other smaller villages. Ukraine has been making some good gains in Staroista, and which is southwest of Volchansk. And Ukrainian battalion operating in the area on June 10th and 18th recaptured positions near there. Staroista again. Ukrainian forces engaged small arms.
Rumble's good to go.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry.
In a minute. That's right. Near northeastern Volchansk, indicating Ukrainians actually regained limited positions along Kiliboroba Street. The footage right here is from the 36th Marine Brigade battalion that was sent there. They retook several positions in northeast Volchansk and advanced along Soborna Street within northern Volchansk. This was taken on the 19th of June. And we'll give you that play right here, right now. Okay, I can't do two things at once, so I gotta let that play. Another successful. Let me make sure we're not needed there. Okay, yeah. So another successful engagement by 36 Marine Brigade. Developments to note in this sector. Ukrainian Brigade, Battalion Commander said that Russian forces are constantly assaulting meat wave attacks, and they're using reserves, being like opposed to Storm Z guys. The best number we have for the Russians surrounded in the Vovchansk aggregate plant is around 200. I've seen that number go down from 400 to 200 in one of ISW's latest estimates. They're reporting that they didn't give a numerical number, but they suggested less than 200. So not many people are actually in there. Again, the situation is very dynamic because the Russians have actually advanced a small box in that area too. We showed that during last week's show for the combat footage on the map there. So again, it's very fluid. They are still enclosed, but we don't know if people have come and gone or people are just leaking and sneaking out there. But anyway, just another note here I wanted to share with you guys. On June 18th, 13 glide bombs did hit Vovchansk in a single hour. Just as an example of how intense the glide bomb attacks are in that sector. Russian forces launched 17 glide bombs at positions north and northeast of Kharkiv itself on the 21st at noon local time. There was a number of casualties, including 3 dead and 3 young girls between ages of 8 and 17. They were wounded, not killed, fortunately. If you take that with a grain of salt, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so going on to some other stuff here, guys. Updating on the deployment of glide bombs in this particular area. There's been some footage that came out. I think we showed the combat footage also last week, or last week, about the newly deployed Fab 300 glide bomb. It's been using a relatively updated Russian glide technology, correction unit and stuff. Anyway, it was reported on June 20th that despite widespread Russian reporting that June 20th marked the first ever strike of the Fab 3000 bomb, there was some modifications to it. They also had some Russian mill bloggers debating the efficacy of using the Fab 3000s. They're nice and big, big boom, but they're knowing that Russian fighter bombers can deliver a payload of 1 Fab 3000 versus 3 Fab 1500 glide bomb modules. That Russian forces can inflict more damage, drop a salvo of those 3 Fab 1500s or 4 Fab 500 bombs. So it's more just for probably propaganda effect to say, hey, we got large bombs that we could drop them kind of on target. So Russian forces conducted their 5th strike on June 24th with the Fab 3000 glide bomb. It was paired with a Unified Planning and Correction Module, or UNPC. So that's the acronym I've had to mention to you guys. Also, lastly, worthy of note, in the last 2 weeks, there was a Russian sabotage group that tried to conduct a cross-border assault into the Zolochiv direction, which is northwest of Kharkiv. It was reported that Ukrainian forces repelled this Russian assault near Sonetsky Kozachok, near Zolochiv, on the evening of the 26th, and the Ukrainian State Border Guard Service stated that the sabotage and recon group from Russia crossed into Ukrainian territory near the border settlement, engaged a small arms fire before they were repelled. And lastly, Russian forces are using both storm assault units with poorly trained personnel and regular units in the Russian army. So we'll go to the Luhansk position. Let me do something in the background really quick here, guys. Make sure that's good. We're up on Rumble again. Back to the presentation. All right. So over to Luhansk, guys. Ukraine recently regained lost positions south of Crimea and east of Terni. These were fairly significant gains. We're measuring the kilometers east towards Crimea and east of Terni here. So we did show that in the chat, actually. It's credit to the 12th Azov Brigade and other units around them in that area. We do have some footage here from the Russian side. This was the Russian 16th Spetsnaz Brigade, reportedly using Iskander ballistic missile to strike a bridge over the Osko River just south of Rova, which I think last week we talked about. There was some gains by the Russians in that area, which indicates that Russian forces may be trying to interdict Ukrainian ground lines of communication and isolate them on the other side of the Osko River. So go and play that now. Russians never pick good music anyway. Yeah.
I'm proud of this.
So we'll go back a little bit and see what it looked before. So it was this side of the bridge that did get knocked out. And then little show there. You know, it's the roadway is destroyed, obviously, but yeah, interesting. So I mean, little earthwork, they might be able to get that back up and repaired, but again, it's a dam, so you need control of how you do a lot of the other purposes for that.
They're proud of this. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, they're boosting it a lot. So anyway, you know, Russian accuracy is what they like to show.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Doing good.
Yeah. Let's see here. So developments of note in Luhansk. Russian forces significantly intensified operations in the Svatove direction on the 18th. The composition of these forces is a large grouping of 10,000 personnel, 450 pieces of military equipment, including 200 artillery systems, along the Radorivka-Novovodine line. Sorry, that's too many Vovos there. Russian forces are conducting offensive operations exclusively with squad-sized infantry groups without armored vehicle support in this direction. It was reported by Mashevets. Ukrainian forces actually advanced 1.5 kilometers near Terni and Yampolivka, while Russian forces were focused on defensive operations in the direction of Borova. And Ukrainian servicemen operating in the Lima direction report that Russian forces are using drones to drop chemical munitions, incendiary substances, and gases, and usual stuff that's considered chemical warfare. In the Donetsk direction, guys, positional changes. There were some, but a lot of it was in windbreaks, fields, stuff like that. So the ones that are worth noting here is that Russian forces advanced on Rozdolivka's western and eastern outskirts. Russian forces marginally advanced within central Kalinivka. And the footage here we also got from the Donetsk front is Russian forces have advanced to the bank of the Seversky Donbass Canal in central Kalinivka. That's north of Chasiv Yar, almost right above the Canal microdistrict. Yeah, I'll get into the consequences of this in a minute. So you can see here, this is the Canal microdistrict. This is Chasiv Yar. This is the road in Kalinivka right here, and this is that forest area to the south where you do talk about some.
Can you resize the chat? It's kind of covering the video there.
Sorry, one sec. Yeah, of course. So we got that fixed. 1 second. Chat. Yeah, I got that window a little tall. Move it around a little bit. And I'm going to turn it off just for right now so we can see the video more clearly. And we'll get back to that right now. And it looks like we got all the bots and the kick on our channel there too. Anyway, I guess we're finally
How's it going, bot bros?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the reason why this is significant, guys, is this is according to ISW, is if Russian forces are able to properly exploit this advantage, may be able to attack Chasiv Yar from the north and threaten the Ukrainian positions in central Chasiv Yar without having to conduct an opposed crossing of the canalized terrain in order to enter the settlement. This is part of that tactic we talked about. North and south pincer push through the center like they did in Bakhmut. So they're just repeating the same playbook. Russian forces have not yet been able to cross the canal, fortunately, where it runs around above ground, in the canal microrayon. And Russian forces have resumed infantry heavy frontal assaults, in the Chasiv Yar direction after having suffered recently high losses after unsuccessful mechanized assaults. An updated number of the Russian central grouping of forces in this sector of the front. It's about 87,000 personnel, 365 tanks, about little south of 900 armored combat vehicles, of which 68 to 70,000 personnel, 310 to 20 tanks, and 576 armored fighting vehicles are currently deployed in the Pokrovsk direction. We'll show it on the map. That's the current major strategic objective direction that Russians are trying to push, it seems, in Ukraine. Ukraine servicemen fighting the Siversk direction stated that Russian forces in the Siversk area are largely attacking small squad-sized infantry groups, again up to a dozen fighters, so about half a platoon, or 2 squads, I think is what that would be. Russian forces are increasingly deploying engineering equipment and are using the Ilich Iron and Steel Works plant in occupied Mariupol, actually, to construct a new military base in an unspecified area to support logistics infrastructure projects in the Donetsk-Zaporizhzhia Oblast border, actually. So that was reported by the assistant mayor that's now still in Ukraine. Russian forces are using fewer armored fighting vehicles west of Avdiivka after their capture of Avdiivka than they previously have been doing, and are now relying on small infantry groups using ATVs and motorcycles to simplify their movement along the forest-filled and windbreak areas. That's interesting to note because that was a major exploitation of the Ukrainian line when there was that failure of rotation. Now they're seemingly pulling back their tank assets and stuff like that to other areas. Bashevitz stated and confirmed that Russian forces seized Shumi and stated that Russian forces advanced to the outskirts of Pivnichi, which is southeast and east of Toretsk, respectively. Stated on the 23rd that 3 to 4 platoon-sized Russian assault groups recently advanced from the Mayorsky checkpoint east of Toretsk along the highway and nearby rail line in the direction of Pivnichi. He said that Russian forces later attacked the correctional colony and concrete plant in Mayorsky and pushed Ukrainian forces from Shumi. And he also stated that it's a very small settlement still, and estimated that Russian forces advanced in an area roughly 2 by 3 kilometers wide in total. 2 kilometers deep, 3 kilometers wide. So that will probably catch them on the map here. So yeah, on the last front, guys, really just more positional engagements on the left bank of the river there, near Krinky and Kozachi Lahari and the islands of the Dnieper River Delta. Unfortunately, the only real thing to speak of advances in the area. So Russian forces have made marginal advance north of Koronska, which is on the left bank of the Kherson River. The footage we got here was so we showed this last week. This was fairly shocking video we showed on the Russian segment of the combat footage here. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but just to geolocate it for you guys. This was we'll show the whole thing, but we'll just refresh your memory. This was shot northeast of Verbatny, so this is in Zaporizhzhia. This guy does get hit by a drone, but we're not going to show the execution because of YouTube rules and stuff. But it is worth noting, again, just the state of mentality, at least in Zaporizhzhia, and why they would probably think it's being ethical to do it. Anyway, so walks up and shoots the guy. You know how it goes. Leave it for there.
I'd expect the same from you guys, too.
Oh, of course not. Anyway.
Oh, I don't know what the state of the injury was.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did that last week. That works anyway. So this guy was running the guy. So okay, let me break it down again here for people that might not know. It's an element of 3 guys. These 2 are looking left. This guy is kind of hanging out in the rear. Drones to their left. The guy in the center is who gets hit. The other guy in the front leaves number 2 guy down. Probably a leg injury based on when he gets hit or where he gets hit. So it's from the.
But he executes him, right?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, just.
No, he just downs him.
Well, no. So the drone hits him. You can see it like in front of his feet. Okay, well, I guess we'll show it here.
Does his bro just run back and fucking canoe him, or what?
You'll see. So yeah, he's injured, probably incapacitated. You know, he's screaming, and then right there, he shoots him in the head. And then after that, we'll skip past that execution.
Why do we skip past that? Play it.
Yeah, that's like the whole thing.
It's war.
Okay, yeah, war happens, I guess, but yeah, so it domes him and moves on. The other guy's clearly not in the picture. He's all the way up the road here.
Like,
the realists have entered the Russian army. Like there's going to be any cast of back on
that is
horse buggy
hardcore real. That's hardcore realist though. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here.
They don't even consider like doing any type of like trauma care.
Well, I mean,
no, he's not gonna live. Yeah, just
like
fly.
at worst, I would leave the man and hope that we'd be able to come back and get him later.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't just put a bullet in his head and end all chance of survival.
Yeah,
that just sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, it's.
I wonder if he was like frothing in the mouth or he was like spasming or something.
Well, he was spasming a little bit. I mean, again, we're gonna.
He was hurt, and they couldn't
explosive.
carry him out. I can appreciate that situation.
Yeah,
they couldn't carry him out. These guys were on the fucking run.
Yeah.
So you can see him laying down. You can see his arm twitch. Kind of goes into a fetal position a little bit.
I don't know what their propaganda about Ukrainians is. Is it if he gets captured, he wouldn't get medical care or something like that? But like, I would have left him.
Dude, look,
I would have just left.
Is he wearing fucking Pumas?
Dude, I think it's heresy. It's supposed to be wearing Adidas.
It's in the old country. It's pronounced Adidas, just for proper pronunciation. Anyway,
I don't know how Slavs say it.
Anyway, sorry. Let me go back to this here.
Probably.
Fucking Westoid. That's how I say it.
Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, just for people that might be watching this otherwise that have light stomachs, we do try to keep the front half of the show YouTube friendly, but again, war does happen. This is for historical documentation and informational. How to put it.
We're not laughing at what happened.
Yeah, obviously, we're not here for porn, war porn, and all that crap. This is what war's been happening, and this is not in the news. And this is part of the function of the show is to put that out. And I do try to keep it as adult as possible in the front of the show. We do, for everyone else that knows this, I'm sorry I have to say it again, guys, but we do have some new people that do show up every once in a while. On the second half, on Odyssey, Kick, Rumble, and Entropy, catch us over there, or we unbutton the collar, let our hair down, and we actually have a little bit more fun, a little bit more lively, a little bit less formal. And,
not even again, sound kind of gay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know. I don't know about letting my hair down.
It's for the women, men with the collar. I mean, it's okay. Trying to sound professional, but okay. I guess
we make it not safe for work. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of
that. Fun.
Yeah.
It's not gay.
It's not gay. Okay.
The way you say that, it makes it like we're about to do a porno on the second half.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's rub my eyes and just power through this anyway.
He was trying to be professional, but it's over now.
Well, I fucked that up at the beginning of the show anyway, so anyway. Okay. I just gotta fake it till I make it, I guess. Ukrainian forces have destroyed 10 Russian boats in the Dnieper River Russian flotilla over the last 2 days, and this was reported on the 30th from the captain of the third rank. That's the spokesman for the Ukrainians in that area. It's also verified that Strategic Armed Forces Strategic Command reported that they've struck Ukrainians. On the 17th, they've struck 15 Russian SAM sites, basically from S-300s, 350s, 400s in Crimea since about May 1st. So within about 2 months, they've wiped out a little over a dozen batteries. This includes dozens of missile launchers, 15 radar stations, which is really important, and the node of everything, which is the command posts. So if you take out the radar stations, you can't see with your SAM batteries. You take the command posts, you're taking out the brain of the whole operation. So hitting those are the real gold mines of the whole SAM battery system. you hit the launchers, there's always redundant launchers. Typically, you have overlaps, launchers and stuff. But again, taking out the eyes, the brain, and the launchers. What you want to do? They did that good effect. Ukraine strikes against the 28 Russian Black Sea fleet vessels and boats. They've destroyed that many boats. My bad, I'm reading way too fast. The Russian forces are also repairing 10 vessels, but are still operating some damaged ships. Russian forces no longer keep missile carriers in occupied Sevastopol, so that's credit to the Ukrainian Navy. The Russian forces may have started loading caliber cruise missiles onto submarines in the port of Novorossiysk, but that port still lacks infrastructure to load calibers onto surface vessels, unlike an occupied Sevastopol. So, and due to that, the Black Sea Fleet has deployed a submarine in constant rotation in the Black Sea for the past several weeks. So that's something they've been able to monitor and put out to the public, though. So that's how the Russians are still able to shoot some caliber missiles from the Black Sea. But again, these are just older Kilo-class subs, and I don't think they have any nuclear ones there, if I remember right, but they're mainly diesel. Anyway, so it's just interesting to note that, from their large missile carriers, like their frigates and stuff, and even the Moskva before that got sunk, they're now down to just rotating subs now. So that's a measure of success.
Yeah. Real quick, the Real Oddcast podcast says the guy signaled for him to shoot him. So it was like a Starship Troopers deal. It's like, Rico, you know what to do.
I don't see that, though.
So I didn't see that, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see the signal. We'll play it one more time.
I'm sorry. Okay, my media. Okay, I'm getting a wheel of death here in my presentation.
No.
One second, guys.
PowerPoint panicked.
Yeah. 1 second. Okay. PowerPoint. Okay. Let me just hit that. Okay, I'm gonna close it down here, guys, and then I'll fire it back up. Kill the PowerPoint here.
All right.
Yeah, engage chat a little bit. I'll get this troubleshot in the background here.
Well, besides that one, Dudicus Rex says Ukraine has the best naval success in history. I mean, pound for pound, the greatest navy that's ever existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think inarguable. If you go pound for pound naval successes, ship for ship, it's basically
ship for ship, yeah.
Yeah, Ukraine doesn't have a navy at all, so it's basically an infinite ratio of success. So yes, greatest navy that's ever existed.
Okay, so we got that back up. We'll show the video again just for reference and dissection. And
yeah, we'll see if we see the signaling.
Okay, let me get back to the point right here. This is after he gets hit by the drone. Okay, maybe it's just this current file here. Okay, it's not liking it here, guys. I apologize.
We'll have to take your word for it there, Real Oddcast Podcast.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah, I'm going to have to kill it again. 1 second, guys.
Oh, wow.
It's really not liking it. Yeah, it's really not liking it.
Ukraine's Navy divides by 0, says White Boy Summer.
Okay.
Yep.
It's quite impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, if all of your naval battles are in the Black Sea and you're in a modern era with surface-to-ship missiles, you can actually make that a reality of having basically nothing but naval victories because it's impossible for you to have naval defeats.
Yes. I can't wait until Ukraine starts to expand from the Black Sea and starts doing this shit in like a Sevastopol and, other parts on because I mean they're already doing like expeditionary force type shit in Africa and the Middle East.
Which again, I don't understand why the fuck they're doing. Like, I get it, Wagner's in Africa.
I guess Wagner. Like, I don't know, man.
I mean, why fuck with them there?
Yeah,
those troops could be.
It'd be way better for them.
You imagine the havoc that would be wreaked if all of a sudden there was like. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it'd be way more efficient to have their SSO forces operating in Ukraine.
Oh, well, I mean, if you're gonna have expeditionary forces like that, could you imagine how fucking the panic that would set in when ships start getting sunk in like the Bering Strait?
Yeah, or their ice cutters, out in the
Ukrainian fucking special forces conducting raids in Vladivostok and shit.
Be on the lookout for Igloo with naval drone. You never know.
You're surrounded now, Russia.
Yeah,
now you're surrounded.
Yeah, I know. That's my thinking. Every corner of the earth should be like, an area they have to take caution in, and that has an incredible psychological effect, like a GI in Vietnam, except more cold and aquatic.
There are not parts of the Russian Federation that are safe.
Yes.
Yeah. I will offer some insight, if you guys don't mind, about why they were operating there. Just because it's kind of my job for the whole show, but the big reason why they were operating against Wagner in Sudan in particular is because Wagner's deal with the Rapid Support Forces and not the Sudanese Armed Forces. So the RSF is because there were gold mines that were contracted out to them. So they were pilfering about over $1 billion worth of gold, which is a liquid asset in the global system, banking and everything. With all these sanctions, they need some sort of liquidity in their monetary exchange, basically, right? Because no one's really trading the rubles, and even like with India, right? Russia's having to buy Indian lira, whatever the fuck it is, right? Rupee, sorry, thank you. And they're just holding on to the rupees, right? So that sucks for them. So any way for them to like have a commodity that's exchangeable, $1 billion worth of hard gold, is good for them. So it helps out their whole economy in a way like that. So with the Ukrainian SSO shutting down some of that to some effect, that's impacting Russia on a much larger scale. So this is like one of those like big brain intel agency things. It's like, well, if the whole economy is going to be affected by one operation or a handful of operators shutting down some gold mine for the Russians, that helps them overall, right? Whereas with like SSO operators operating in Ukraine, unfortunately, this is a criticism I have seen lodged against them by Ukrainian commentators, is that they use them on frontline assaults, right? To good effect, right? No, they're good shooters. They know what they're doing. They train like a motherfucker. But what's one more windbreak in Donetsk versus shutting down the gold mines of Sudan that Russia's exploiting?
Yeah, I was surprised they even have those capabilities, because if you look at the Wagner deployment in Africa, it's like in the tens of thousands. So I unless there's some like Navy SEAL level get out really quick, like I don't want to imagine like how difficult it would be to try to blow up a gold mine operation in the middle of Africa.
That's also kind of the weird thing about them. They haven't actually destroyed the mine, from my understanding. They're just hampering
logistics.
They're just talking about the logistical line for Russia there in that sense, though. They're not going to destroy Sudan, because it's already doing that itself, right? True African style. But that's the thing now. It's like they got to do the whole like international diplomacy thing at the same time, still fight their avowed enemy.
In worst case scenario, they have to send more resources to Africa than they do have send them to Ukraine. So
So I mean,
that can happen. Yeah.
When we first reported that, I was generally confused. It was as much as we talked about it in the show, but I think over time we've reported tidbits that have leaked out. Along with the combat footage, managed to piece together a small picture of it. I'm sure there's still more stuff going on than we'll ever realize until they release that to the public. But that's at least like the biggest thing we could find out, is that it's to fuck up the and freeze Russia's like monetary system in a way. By seizing that up, you're fucking up the rest of the economy essentially. Anyway. Okay, yeah, we'll get on to some of the headlines here. We got a few more slides, and then we'll call it good for the brief here. But yeah, again, I just kind of gave you the biggest hits this last 2 weeks, guys. So yeah, for missiles, again, we're in the headline section now. Russian forces continue to conduct glide bomb strikes in the Kharkiv city and Kharkiv Oblast. It was reported on the 22nd of June that Russian forces have launched over 2,400 glide bombs against Ukraine since the beginning of June, of which 700 of those targeted Kharkiv Oblast alone. Again, trying to terrorize the civilian population in Ukraine's second largest city. Ukrainian forces struck Russian oil depots, which is pictured here, in the Rostov Oblast and Krasnodar Krai overnight on the June 17th and 18th, using their own Neptune missiles again. So they're switching them up from shore to ship, from surface to surface missiles, basically. It's it's just interesting, at least for me, from a technical point of view, that they retuned these missiles for land strikes. It was just interesting. Ukraine Navy told the media on the 18th that they used their Neptune anti-ship missiles to strike an oil terminal. I'm not even going to try to enunciate that. It's like Eugene Tech Him Transit LLC and Chuska Krasnodar Krai overnight. It was also reported by Astra that local witnesses witnessed the explosions and fire damage to the pipeline and areas of engineering and technical equipment. Russian authorities did not confirm the strike, but the Russian MOD did say that they intercepted a Ukrainian Neptune missile in an unspecified area on the 17th. It was reported that the SBU conducted the drone strikes against the Azovkaya and Azov Nafto product oil terminal in Azov Rostov Oblast, which is right on the very eastern edge of the Sea of Azov. And so the reason why this is important, though, is because these oil terminals are a node in the Russian oil economy. Basically, by attacking these terminals, they put another damper on how Russia can pump out their oil, basically. And as I understand it, it's actually mostly crude oil. It's not too much refined oil, along with the drone strikes that Ukraine has inflicted upon Russian refineries. Again, people are going to pay more for refined oil products. Aviation fuel is going to be more expensive than just crude, right? Obviously. But if they pump out just crude, it's going to be worth more. It's going to be worth less than more expensive refined fuel. So combining those two things together with less output, less quality oil, this is having more effects on the Russian oil market. So that's the whole game plan behind this, though, I guess. Lastly, the SBU sources stated that these depots combined 22 fuel tanks. It was also reported that up to 60 tons of petroleum products pass through these depots per month, that the storage tanks could hold up to 30,000 cubic meters of petroleum products simultaneously. So those were hit. Okay. The big news in the last 2 weeks, guys, was Putin's visit to North Korea and Vietnam. Vietnam was a little underwhelming, but we'll get to the best BFF Hunger Games episode reboot, whatever you want to call it, in the picture here. For
Putin met his favorite K-pop star.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you're better at that than I am, but yeah,
fanboyed the fuck out.
Yeah.
I mean, does that meeting not have serious like Nick Fuentes Catboy date vibes?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you open the door. No, you
open the door. Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, I got that as well.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Putin and Kim signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement in Pyongyang on the 19th, likely aimed at using military cooperation with North Korea as part of a threat against the West to discourage their support for Ukraine. Putin arrived with a delegation of Russian ministers in Pyongyang, signed the agreement with Kim, but neither Russia nor North Korea published the official text of this at the time this was written. And since the 19th, I haven't got any word of the official document, at least from ISW. I haven't checked the Kremlin English version yet. I doubt they will publish that either. But anyway, it was long-term relations and agreements on political, economic, trade, cultural, humanitarian, and security fields. It also provides for, quote, mutual assistance in the event of aggression against either North Korea or Russia, so kind of their own mini NATO, I guess. This is likely in response to Western-provided long-range weapons and F-16 jets that should be coming online soon. And then Putin concluded that in this regard, Russia does, quote, not rule out the development of military technical cooperation with Korea. In response to this, South Korea, my bad, basically said, well, we're thinking about selling lethal aid to Ukraine, basically. South Korea has notably had a long-standing policy that prevents it from directly transferring arms to active conflict zones. A policy that has forced South Korea to send, again, shells to Ukraine via third parties, mainly the United States. It was reported that Chang, who was from the South Korean National Security Director, that any Russian military technical cooperation with North Korea violates a series of UN Council resolutions, and they're basically saying, well, we'll probably just start selling directly to Ukraine. So we'll help out with the logistical pipeline of shells and whatever arms they want to get from South Korea. And just a quick note on the visit Putin to Vietnam. He met with Vietnamese President To Lam, Pham Ninh Chinh, and a few other guys. But it was just basically talked about economy a little bit, though. Vietnam still maintains good cordial relations with the United States and a lot of the other security bloc that's being built up in the United States and Australia and UK in that area, along with the Philippines. So nothing's really changed with Vietnam. They're just, again, playing the middle, benefiting from like China is between the United States and Russia. Lastly, a couple notes here, guys. North Korea will reportedly send military construction engineering forces to participate in, quote, reconstruction work in occupied Donetsk as early as July 2024. This was reported from South Korean TV network TV Chosun, citing a South Korean government official. It was reported on the 21st that South Korea expects North Korea to dispatch a large-scale engineering force to Donetsk, like we talked about. North Korean military reportedly operates 10 engineering brigades, and TV Chosun estimated that North Korea could earn up to $115 million in unspecified foreign currency each year from Russia if it dispatches 3 or 4 engineering brigades to occupied Ukraine. At the time of writing this, ISW said this is part of their strategic partnership, but then a couple days later, they come out with this really counter point here. At this time, all actors involved have either explicitly denied or refused to confirm that North Korea may be sending engineering forces to support Russia in Ukraine. Claims of such reports are confirmed by U.S. officials are inaccurate. Dmitry Peskov from Russia stated on the 27th that Kremlin is unfamiliar with recent reports. It was even stated by the U.S. Department of State, spokesman Matthew Miller, about the alleged North Korean troop deployment. He said that's been officially announced, but Miller responded that he does not have any specific comment and that he has not seen that report. So, might not be happening. This might have been just some TV station citing an unnamed South Korean government official, and everyone just kind of blew it up, though. So it's one of those things that happens with the war. So anyway, just wanted to give you that development, guys, because everyone was like, "Oh my God, North Koreans and Ukraine and stuff like that." I read this.
Oh no, malnourished.
Yeah, right. yeah.
That's terrifying. I'm
just
starving
Asians and the Ukrainian steppe again.
Fuck, I'd rather have like the Fab 500 bomb over the North Korean construction worker. It's gonna have like styrofoam and like plastic dip buildings. Like that sounds like I have no idea what the fuck the Russians are thinking. And trusting the North Koreans with infrastructure projects. It's insane.
It's not at all a sign of desperation. That's crazy.
Not at all. Not at all.
Everything's under control.
All right, guys. That does it for the North Korean stuff. I got a few things here, but that was basically the big tidbit out of the last couple of weeks. We'll go with some more stuff at the middle of the stack here. Russian forces have been using the new Fab 3000 M54 bomb with the UMPC module to strike in Kharkiv for several times over the last couple of weeks. We talked about some of the strikes here earlier, though, but some of the more details on it here is that Sergei Shoigu announced serial production of the Fab 3000 bombs a few months ago, back in March 2024, when he was visiting the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast. Russian sources previously praised the production of the Fab 3000s, but noted that the weight and general dimensions make it very difficult for Russian tactical aircraft to deliver. It was also Russian forces have figured out how to launch it, and significant development will increase the destructive potential. We've seen some of these videos, which is also right here, though. We'll show that after we get to this little paragraph here. Russians have also increased guided, unguided glide bomb use against Ukraine, particularly in Kharkiv, to devastating effect. And launching a massive barrage of these Fab 3000s would cause even more widespread damage. The way the fires missions works for the most part, guys, to my understanding, artillery is just ubiquitous at this point. We all know that, but the top tier stuff would be, your bomb missions, right? Using a bigger bomb to destroy harder fortifications is something that a 152 or a 122 millimeter howitzer is not going to have an easy job doing. But having aircraft, large bombs, or clusters of large bombs is what you want to use on like central fortifications in a defensive line. So you go from your aircraft down to your artillery, your large calibers down to your medium calibers, like your 120 mortars, down to your smaller stuff with your HES grenade launchers, and then you get down to your kinetic rounds like your Dishkas, your PKMs, and stuff like that. That's your chain of fires, basically, when you're trying to get close to the target or try to destroy and engage. Having this asset in the Russian arsenal is something that Ukraine can only answer through Patriot missiles and other stuff like that. Though hopefully, when F-16s can also start running combat air patrols or CAP missions, they'll be able to counter this a lot easier, though. So, lastly, on this note, though, guys. Russian bloggers noted that on the 20th, the strike was not particularly accurate, but the destruction radius of the FAB 3000 will compensate for its lack of accuracy. You've shown it has a fat nose, so it's not exactly aerodynamic, but it's still, again, it's very, very large. Again, so these are kilograms, so that's about it's an over 6,000 pound bomb. And then with the FAB 1500s, respectively, it's about a 3,000 pound bomb. And so on and so forth, right? So it's a large motherfucking water heater of a bomb. Anyway, so we'll go and show you an example of that, guys. Focus on the central building here on this particular video.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
So this was the impact area right here at that goal. Just turn that down because fuck fighter bomber. Anyway. Yeah, I know. Anyway, yeah, so that's
the big nose.
Gotta love that rat feather.
Yeah, it's just like Russian Kid Rock to me. Anyway, so that's the FAB 3000 there, guys. Anyway, yeah. So an interesting update on the Patriot missile deliveries from the United States to Ukraine. The United States has made a policy change of prioritizing Patriot air defense interceptors to Ukraine against the backdrop of the decreasing Russian glide bomb threat. John Kirby, who's a spokesman for the national security policy in the United States, stated that the United States is going to reprioritize the export of Patriot missiles so that the missiles rolling off the production line will go straight to Ukraine. Kirby characterized the decision as difficult but necessary to ensure that hundreds of Patriot and NASAM munitions produced in the next 16 months would go to Ukraine, regardless of which country ordered them. So that's a long time coming, but at least it happened. Kirby stated that the Ukraine will receive the first shipments of Patriot missiles by the end of summer 2024. That other countries that ordered Patriot missiles will receive them on, quote, a delayed timeline. So, yeah. Anyway, it just makes sense. Anyway, a lot of other countries were broadly supportive of the decision to reprioritize Ukraine's air defense needs. So, and lastly, the Romanian Supreme National Defense Council stated that Romania will donate one Patriot system. So it's a whole system, not just a battery. Anyway, to Ukraine due to Russia's large-scale attacks on their energy and civil infrastructure. So good on Romania. So yeah, let's engage chat a little bit here. So we can take a small breather for 1 minute. Trolling Wagner is always correct. I agree with that. I did think White Boy Summers quote right there is probably the quote of the day, though. Ukraine's Navy divides by 0.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that is pretty smart. I wish I had a scrolling marquee. I put that in there. That's something I should probably put in, actually. We'll work on that later. They're going
in the comment at the very least.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, we can that. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Der Viking says they are doing it because there's retribution, low barrier of entry in these failed states. I guess that's more of a mafia thing, like tit for tat hits, but it doesn't really make sense to do that. But it's again, I think there's a much larger picture that they're doing it for because Budanov is better. Yeah, Budanov's a much smarter guy than any of us here, I think. And he knows what he's doing. Like, just let him cook. Wagner probably thinks they're operating with impunity and are off guard, which for the most part they do most of the time. Russia does love cheap labor, and yeah. Anyway, okay, guys. So this is an interesting video. I'll give you some overview first before we get to talk about it here a little bit. Russian military has increased over-reliance on infantry-heavy frontal assault tactics, has greatly degraded the distinctions between the various Russian combat services on the battlefield, minimizing their operational efficacy on frontline troops. So we talked over the course of the war. Usually, again, I'll just break down really quickly. Russia's top-tier units were Wagner, but they remain to be the VDV and naval infantry, right? We've seen how, like, for example, the 155th Russian naval infantry did around Volodar. It's been reconstituted at least 6-7 times, probably 8 now. And then the VDV was decimated at Hostomel and various other operations, with the Kharkiv counteroffensive and stuff like that, though. So over time, with the way the Russians have been backfilling these units, they've been giving them, like, standard, sounds like 14 days of training. In some cases, sometimes they do send out specialists to, batteries and stuff to, work on Iskander missiles. Those are like contract troops, right? So you have your tier 1 units, which would be those two that are left. Your line units, which would be like your motorized infantry, your guards units, stuff like that. Then you have like your bottom tier, which would be your Mobics, your foreign volunteers, which whether that's like DPR, LPR, or Africans or Sri Lankans, on the front line, or even your Ossetians and their units. What else? I mean, you know what I'm saying. So those are your tiers of troops there, though. But all those distinctions have become kind of muddled now, and we'll give you some information on that here. So this is from military observer Konstantin Mashevitz from Ukraine. He reported on the 20th that he gained access to a 2024 training manual for Russian airborne troops entitled "Combat Use of an Assault Company Group in an Offensive," unquote. Mashevitz stated that the training manual is meant to integrate battlefield experiences from Ukraine into VDV training doctrine, and note that the tactical solution to contemporary frontline challenges from the manual is the creation of a dedicated VDV assault detachments, usually assault companies, pull from units at the brigade, regiment, and battalion level. So they could pull from a brigade down to a battalion to form an assault company. According to the manual, the assault groups should seize Ukraine's strong points and individual firing points, as well as fortified terrain features, and ideally operate within a larger assault detachment or assault battalion. I would imagine that's at brigade level. Mashevitz emphasized that the Russian High Command expects for these company-sized assault groups have a standard service life of 2 days maximum. 2 days. As this is the time frame in which the Russian High Command has calculated that the assault group will completely expend its combat capabilities during traditional combat operations. The concept of the dedicated assault companies pulled from existing regiments, brigades, and battalions is a novelty for Russian forces in Ukraine, and indeed has become the prevalent tactic of attack along most of the front line for over a year, apart from occasionally mechanized assaults. The fact that the VDV forces are now relying on the same frontal assault tactic as ordinary Russian infantry and mechanized forces is notable. I further suggest that the VDV and other formations that were previously considered elite within the Russian military prior to 2022 have lost those distinctions due to the way the Russian command writ large is prosecuting the war. The codification of the assault group in the VDV doctrine further supports ISW's longstanding assessment that the way of Russia's fighting has blurred previously relevant distinctions. Yeah, so what else? There's some other amplifying information on this, though. There was the tempo of what these guys were doing is that it was expected that they'd be in an assault posture for 1 to 2 hours per day. So if you're over an extended assault in just one day, that lifetime of 2 days could be just burned out in an afternoon, right? If you're assaulting for 2 days, 1 to 2 hours a day, then you're done, basically, right? But if you're in an extended assault and say off chance for 4 or 6 hours, the entire company could be wiped out. So that's just the battlefield arithmetic that the Russians are coming with right here. This particular manual that was captured. Yeah, I'll give you the last paragraph here, guys, before we get to the video. This is, again, testimony from Russians on the front line. Russian forces appear to be intensifying the tempo of their offensive operations in Donetsk while decreasing the rate of attacks in northern Kharkiv. Consistent with an assessment from ISW, the Russian offensive in Kharkiv was primarily intended to fix and distract Ukrainian forces. I'm not sure about that. I think that was a genuine effort from the new defense minister to show that he could do things, but this ended up being like his first major fuck up. That's my assessment, but what do I know? I don't get paid for my opinion too much. Russian forces increased the intensity of assaults in the Torets-Korlivka direction, which is southwest of Chasiv Yar and northeast of Avdiivka, on the night of the 18th, and maintained a relatively high rate of attacks in this area between the 19th and 22nd of June. And they've been generally active in this sector over the course of 2024, so their activation intensification is noteworthy. By contrast, the tempo of offensive operations in northern Kharkiv has drastically decreased in recent days, particularly in comparison with the start of the Russian offensive operation in May. Ukrainian forces have redeployed units to the Kharkiv direction from Donetsk, so Russian forces may be exploiting this perceived weakness on the Ukrainian lines and intensify these attacks in that sector. The high rate of attacks in the Chasiv Yar direction around Avdiivka since decreasing the tempo in Kharkiv may soon intensify their attacks, and if Russian command identifies in the coming weeks and as an advantageous time to push these attacks. And anyway, yeah, so what's interesting is that we're seeing Russians moving around a lot more. They're not just dedicated towards, say, the breakout near Avdiivka. They pulled some of the Russian troops back, Russian assets back, like their tanks and armored vehicles. We talked about how they're using motorcycles and Desert Cross, ATVs and stuff like that, a lot more in that sector. So they're having to prioritize where their assets go. They're not so dedicated to Kharkiv anymore. It's just turned into a fucking slog for them. So again, Donetsk has always been the focus for the Russian army, so they're trying to push in one sector of the Donetsk Oblast. Anyway, so this is from the 1009th Regiment. So again, what should be noted is that any unit that is over 1,000 for the Russian army is a mobilized unit. Anything below that is a regular army unit. So these are all mobilized personnel, and this is them speaking about their experiences on the front. Though it's about a minute and a half long, and it's captioned right there. So I'll just let them speak for themselves here.
Добрый день. Мы военнослужащие 1009-го полка. Я Валетов Евгений. Это мой брат Валетов Игорь. Вчера выходили на штурм Волчанска. Из штурма у нас ничего не получилось. Все получили ранения, кто-то убежал. Дальнейшую судьбу их я не знаю. Возможно, раненые, возможно, убитые. Мы с братом получили ранения. Вот, все израненные смогли оказать сами себе первую помощь и выбраться в лес. Командир говорит, что завтра надо идти опять штурмовать это здание. Ну, в каком состоянии мы пойдем? Если у нас все болит, мы все изранены, и у нас просто нету сил. Я обращаюсь к военной прокуратуре, президенту Российской Федерации. Вмешайтесь, пожалуйста, решите этот вопрос. Зачем отправлять вот таких вот людей, всех израненных, обессиленных, в бой? Это просто отправить на смерть.
So, as you can tell from this guy's mouth right here, he's got some sort of deep cut, probably from shrapnel. His entire right side of his mouth is entirely swollen. Guy probably can't talk. But to summarize there, they're a mobilized unit of Russians west of the Urals. And they were sent into an assault in Vovchansk. They failed in taking the A building, retreated back to the forest. The wounded treated their own wounds, and the commander of their unit said they're going to assault the same building tomorrow. This gentleman is saying, well, we can't do that because we're wounded and bleeding. He's appealing to the Russian Federation Prosecution Office. Again, it's kind of appealing to the emperor, fix the problem, but they're not getting any help from that, though. So this is probably one of those assault units, maybe, that's being, thrown together to go and assault, these beat wave tactics. And, that's what's happening here. Do you have any comments, Alex?
No, just an interesting insight from Camille the Wicked. He said that the part the speaker is leaving out or misses is that during these 2-hour raids that they were doing, jamming is active, so they don't have comms. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it could be targeted with drones and missiles. So, yeah, I guess they're just kind of stuck. Like, no, we know how the Russian officer system works. So.
Right. Okay. So, Camille, are you speaking of Russians or Ukrainians jamming? Because it's been noted that Ukrainian electronic warfare in this sector has actually been superior to Russians. whereas in Donetsk, that's kind of flipped the other way.
Yeah.
So clarify if you want to put any more information on that. Let us know what you. Anyway, so we'll go on the next headlines here, guys. So, Western countries have reportedly provided Ukraine with roughly 800 million euros or $855 million worth of Serbian-produced ammunition, despite Serbian President Alexander Vucic's ongoing efforts to balance the favor between Russia and the West. The Financial Times report on the 22nd that it obtained estimates from an unspecified source that said that third-party countries have sent roughly 800 million euros of Serbian-produced ammunition since 2022. Vucic, sorry, everyone pronouncing it that, clarified that Serbia does not export ammunition to Ukraine or Russia. Serbia's clients is the U.S., Spain, and Czechia can allocate the ammunition as they see fit. So, oh well, we make money, no one cares, So it's probably Czechia that's shipping a lot of that around, and the United States, obviously. Unnamed diplomats and analysts told the FT that the official Serbian government data purposely veils the flow of ammunition to Ukraine via third-party countries. A little bit more information that follows after the fallout from the Derbent and attacks that happened last week in Russia in the Northern Caucasus. The Islamic State Northern Caucasus branch, Wilayat Kavkaz. I think we talked about them a handful of times, but this is the most recent time we've talked about them. Likely conducted a complex and coordinated attack against churches, synagogues, and law enforcement structures in the Republic of Dagestan on the 23rd. Dagestan's Ministry of Internal Affairs reported that unknown actors opened fire on a Russian Orthodox church and a synagogue in Durban at approximately 1800 local time. They reported within the same hour that another group of unknown actors opened fire at a traffic police post in Makhachkala, which is 120 kilometers north of Durban. Dagestan announced a counterterrorism regime that lasted until the 23rd, following the attacks, and Russian law enforcement killed 5 of the assailants and wounded 6. So there were 11 attackers altogether. I think we've reported on 6 altogether because there was 4 in Makhachkala and then 2 in Durban, I think is what we talked about during our combat segment there, but it went up to 11. Russian media reported that 7 law enforcement officials, a priest, and a church guard died in the attacks, and 25 more individuals have been injured, mostly law enforcement. The Baza Telegram channel claimed that 2 of the attackers, identified as Osman and Adil Omarov, both of whom Russian law enforcement killed, were sons of Sergo Kanalinsky district head Magomed Omarov, so the government official. The Russian branch of ISK's Al-Azam Media posted a statement on the 23rd praising the attack. Quote, their brothers from the Caucasus were demonstrating what they're capable of. The Shanghai Cooperation Zone also basically warned about this happening, and Russian authorities have attempted a lackluster counterterrorism operation in the North Caucasus since March 2024 in response to the Crocus City Hall attack, in order to combat the growing Wilayat Kavkaz influence and such things like that. So this has caused a lot of stir in the Russian info space. So it's interesting to know, just to see how it fell out. And there was, again, follow-up from the Russian government that they're clamping down on, forgot the guy's name, the MMA fighter we talked about last week. So interesting to know, and I think that just kind of, again, explicitly underlines how Russian outreach has also backfired against themselves to the Muslim world, right? Because they're also outreaching to Muslims in France, other places like that, through Chechnya, and then Chechen fighters that are in international organizations like the UFC. It goes both ways. And anyway, so eventually these radicalized Islamists go and shoot Russians, basically their own people in Dagestan. So anyway, do you have any comments, guys, before we press on?
No, I missed that story you're talking about. Is it a Dagestan Chechen fighter?
Okay. So
was it Khabib?
No, I think it was an associate of Khabib, actually. Yeah. Because there was a picture we showed last week. I forgot his name. I'd have to dig through the notes again from last year. Yeah, I think he fought Conor McGregor, actually, if I remember right. I think it was Khabib.
That's Khabib.
Yeah, it's Khabib. Yeah, Khabib was the guy that fought Conor McGregor, but this associate...
Yeah, Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, Nurmagomedov. Yeah, there was an associate of his, I think, that they're investigating. And there's a whole, international MMA gym club franchise he owns, right? So they're investigating that too right now. So it's
like active club for jihadists.
Kind of, yeah. And that's why I found it so interesting. It's like this is a franchised, over the counter sort of operation, right? That has a face and a name and public finances and stuff like that, though. But they're doing this pretty much in the open. Whereas with active claims,
not at all.
Not at all. Right? It's
no money.
It's all just time and effort and no money, right?
No professional gym. That shit.
So anyway, so this is the consequence of those Russian efforts to do that sort of thing. But as far as the attackers go, sounds like most of them were Dagestanis. Some of them were Chechens. Kadyrov, in response to this, said that he would attack the families of the shooters in true, Northern Caucasoid Chechen retaliation. Right, one person in your family attacks, I'm going to wipe out your whole family. Because that's how he as a leader, instills his leadership. Just pure fucking terror. It's been an interesting back and forth though, because even in the Kremlin, a lot of people were saying, well, this is because of the immigration into Russia, and then Putin's also saying, well, we need labor from the Turks and the Caucasus, all this crap though. So it's this is your multipolar world. I like it's hard to even talk about it anymore because we've analyzed so many angles of this. But this is just the consequence of also the Russian security platform not accounting for this again. They do stop some of these things, obviously, but you had the Crocus, City Hall, it was 4 months ago, and now you have basically an insurrectionist attack. I mean, they were attacking police stations, burning down a church and a synagogue. Side note, I didn't see any Russophiles rooting the Sans, of course, but whatever, because it's Russia. Anyway, just consistency on the part never, is found to be there. Side the point, but that it's just interesting to note because we're starting to see a pattern here. We have 2 data points now that shows an increase in attacks. One again, it was just a northwestern suburb in Moscow. Now this was 2 cities at a coordinated juncture because the attack started within an hour of each other in 2 different places that are 120 kilometers apart. So these are coordinated attacks, and we could probably expect to see more of this though. It's just interesting to know. So we'll see how it goes. Let me engage chat though, because I'm pretty sure this will. Oh, sorry. Camille the Wicked updated us. He said Russians use jamming. Yes, they focused a lot of counter tech. Knowing yes, that is true. They're very good with their electronic warfare. Get down here. They have drones that crash in the area and jam everything. Okay. Including
how would it maintain electronics if it crashes?
I think that's just a mistype, probably. They can't turn it off. Okay. Hello, Maze Mine. It's good to see you. Everyone's doing good. It's been a good day. It's getting hotter out here, so that's gonna suck. So
probably activate it right before impact, and if it's on a spike or something that can withstand, there's some pretty intense electronics. They have satellite guarded artillery shells, so the electronics survive the force of being shot out of an artillery cannon. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Russians
those are electronically guided.
Yeah.
There was the Russians had a satellite that crashed, landed on fucking Venus, and still sent back data for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't know. I if you want to clarify that, let us know. I don't know of any Russian technology that crashes and impacts on the ground. It is still operational to jam. That would be something new. But what you're talking about, D, was the Krasnopol artillery shell that the Russians use. That's their version of the Excalibur
missile.
missile.
Has one.
That's Excalibur missile, right? The Russian version of that is the Krasnopol shell.
No, these are I don't think the Excalibur's not a missile, is it?
No, it's a GPS guided 155 artillery shell.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So I mean, they use that to destroy, but they don't have redundancy to continue broadcasting. What is it? GPS jamming?
No, but my point is that you can make electronics pretty fucking hardy.
Yes, obviously, yeah. No, but that makes them obviously much more expensive. But I get what you're saying. Sorry. I think we're talking about 2 different things at this point. But,
yeah.
Dukas Rex says, is this a sectarian thing? Why are Muzzies killing other Muzzies? My understanding, again, this is all the information coming out. It's only percolated for a week, so we don't have any real settled information. First reports are that these were Wahhabyists. I think the Chechens and Dagestanis are Sunni, if I remember right. Wahhabi, which correlates to the vein of Wahhabis because they're also Sunni because that's from Saudi Arabia. So Wahhabis are setting up networks in Chechnya and Dagestan. In the second, anyway, one of the Chechen wars, right? Doesn't really count. There were Wahhabists and trying to remember the name of that they had in Afghanistan, Mujahideen. Right? So the Mujahideen had some also Wahhabists in their ranks. So there's been a long-standing Wahhabist influence as an insurrectionary force in those, even in Ingushetia, that one is west of Chechnya. Anyway, it's been there, right? But they have been also activated, it seems like, here again. And ISIS-K, which is for, again, ISIS Khorasan, which is roughly Afghanistan, parts of Iran, Pakistan, and most of the Istan countries north of Afghanistan. Since Afghanistan no longer is under American occupation, and Russia recognized the Taliban, right, as a legitimate government of Afghanistan, I imagine there's probably some influence of ISIS-K coming back and forth in travel between the two countries, right? Because Afghanistan has a long-standing reputation for terrorist training camps and stuff, right? So why wouldn't that
close ties with Chechens?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah, they're very close. I mean, I think Afghanistan said they would join Chechnya or Dagestan if they were like.
Well, I mean, Chechen snipers operated in Afghanistan, killing U.S. troops for years,
and also in Iraq, and those places we've been. So yeah, this is a long-standing international issue. This region has very close ties between many Muslim communities. So to say that it's a separate sectarian thing, a little bit. I think it was just the most extreme actors acting out against the authority figure, essentially. They did attack a synagogue and a church, which they view as, what's the Muslim word for infidel? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
The Muslim word.
Yeah, no, there's a particular word for it though. Yeah, I used to remember. I don't remember what it is right now. But anyway,
kafir.
Kafir, yeah, it was being kafirs. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, and that's as much as I could tell, guys. Like, I mean, they had to shoot Dagestani police because that's who are the local police. Yeah, I don't know whether there's a larger thing behind this though. All I've seen is just congratulation videos from other organizations. There was one video put out by the Kavkaz group. It's a group of 5 or 6 of these guys in balaclavas and AKs and t-shirts and sandals, basically saying, "Yeah, we're still around. Our martyrs got martyred." Blah blah blah. So I don't know. I can't really give you anything else.
Get martyred.
Yeah. Saudi's making everything worse. Yeah, exactly. So that's all I can give you guys. But yeah, this is again percolating in the background. If I get any more information, I'll let you guys know. So. Yeah, okay. So some other good news coming up here soon, guys. The Ukrainian Armed Forces Strategic Communication, or STRATCOM, reported on the 28th that Ukrainian forces have damaged or destroyed more than 30 Russian military aircraft in the first 6 months of 2024. It's reported that they damaged or destroyed 9 Sukhoi 25, 1 Sukhoi 57 aircraft, which is their stealth fighter, 2 MiG-31 aircraft, roughly 13 Sukhoi 34, 2 Sukhoi 35, and 2 A-50 long-range radar detection aircraft, 1 Ilyushin 22 M11 airborne command post aircraft, and 1 Tupolev 22 M3 strategic bomber in the first 6 months. Russian Military Command continues to endorse cultural permissiveness towards war crimes. This was reported a while ago, but this was put out by the Ukrainian Prosecutor General Andrei Kostin. They reported the 18th that his office had received it for confirmation. Russian forces beheaded a Ukrainian soldier in the Volnovka rayon in Donetsk Oblast, displayed the severed head on a damaged Ukrainian vehicle.
Jesus.
Yeah. So beheadings, executions on their own side, like it's turned into like true like Mongol hours on the Russian side.
Yeah.
Kostin stated that Ukrainian intelligence revealed that Russian battalion and company level commanders in charge of the sector on the front ordered their subordinates not to capture Ukrainian soldiers and to take them captive as prisoners of war, as required by international law, but to kill them by beheading them. So their own officers are telling their subordinates to revert to these medieval tactics. But again, on the flip side of successful POW exchanges, Russia and Ukraine exchanged a 1-for-1 exchange on the 25th, 90 prisoners of war. I didn't get confirmation that there's any Azov guys that got released, guys. That's been something that's been missing in the media for a very long time. Some of these guys are from the Azovstal, so it's most likely, I think, 2nd Battalion of the 36th Marine Brigade, the part of the brigade that didn't flee with their commander. Anyway, we went over the siege of Mariupol in very good detail. So anyway, we'll get to the points here. 90 Ukrainian POWs returned to Ukraine in the 53rd POW exchange thus far in the war. It was also reported that 90 Russian POWs returned to Russia. It was the UAE that mediated the exchange, and it was stated that they interviewed over 600 released Ukrainian civilians and POWs since 2022, all of whom reported experiencing or observing torture, severe beatings, prolonged exposure to stressful positions, and being mauled by dogs. POWs also reported that Russian guards psychologically tortured them and forced them to sing patriotic songs daily, reported experiencing constant hunger and poor medical care for long periods of time. There was also another POW exchange. 10 Ukrainian civilians whom Russian and Belarusian authorities arrested and held in captivity or prison, including individuals detained before Russia's invasion, returned to Ukraine. This was reported on the 29th. The 10 Ukrainian civilians returned to Ukraine from Russia. So this is, again, part of the weakness of the Russian system, too, I'd also say, in these exchanges, though. Whereas with Ukraine, they're exchanging spies, collaborators, soldiers that they do capture, right? Russians are trading civilians for their own soldiers back. So in a war, I'd say that's not a 1-for-1. It's more like 50 cents for $1 sort of exchange, in a way. But that Ukraine's exchanging body for body because that, they're probably the better party. But I don't know. That's just again, part of these international relations negotiations. They're compelled more by their humanitarian side to exchange also for civilians because they just see them as human beings. Not to take away from the value of these civilians. Don't get me wrong, guys, but you need soldiers that are out of their POW camps in Russia. That should be your number one priority. You should hold out harder to get those guys out of there, right? Not just exchange civilians, but that's just my observation. Anyway, so that does it for the headlines here, guys. Let me see what we got here in chat. Seems to be popping off here a little bit. Kimmel the Wicked says the article that he posted there leaves out a high-powered... Oh, okay. Leaves out a high-powered 5.8 gigahertz and 2.5 gigahertz block cells and most drones. That's the key here. Okay, all right, that's some interesting news I will have to read later. Thank you for the link, because I always appreciate sources. They make it sound fancy, but it's just a high-powered signal until the battery runs out, right? My point of bringing it up was to say that once Russians go on these raids, there's no calling for backup and change the plan. Everything is rigid. Yeah, I don't see. That's the thing. I don't know the Russian comm plans because that was kind of my job, part of my job that I would work associated with people that would be in charge of that in the Navy. So I kind of know how that works. Doesn't I mean again, I'm coming from a Western military, right? That actually kind of works. If you're going to jam on certain bandwidths, you've got to have a comm plan that works around those jammed bandwidths. But again, I can't really credit Russia for being too incredibly intelligent in how they prosecute their attacks. So you might be right. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on this one because I can't give Russia the benefit of the doubt to be competent. So,
I know that in Afghanistan we had man packs that would jam RF signals and we still had comms.
Right, exactly. Because your comm plan's going to work around those jam frequencies. It just makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, so you might jam on the VHF, UHF, and SHF bands, right? But you'll have HF. Comms, right? Just to
I don't know which frequencies. I just know the point was to block cell phone activated IEDs. That was the idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was always the thing, right? Yeah. Anyway, thank you for the engagement, Camille. Always appreciate talking to chat. Onto the mobilization for Russia here, guys. So some more numbers here. Just the hard, good hitting stuff here in the last 2 weeks. Russia's reportedly experiencing issues of producing artillery shells and artillery systems. Select artillery systems. Apologies. Ukrainian military analyst Petro Chernik stated that on June 17th, Russia likely produced 8,000 to 9,000 artillery barrels. Has likely about that many. stockpiled and is able to produce 150 to 170,000 shells per month. It's an incredible amount. Chernik stated that Russia, however, suffers from shortages of explosives for these shells, especially nitrocellulose, an intermediary good used in producing gunpowder and explosives. Chernik stated that Russia is gradually shifting from using self-propelled racked artillery systems, mainly those rockets we see, to towed systems. The Russia is suffering from unspecified problems with the tractors needed to pull such artillery pieces. So that's probably another sanctions knock-on effect. Chernik stated that Russia will be unable to increase its production of newer, higher-quality self-propelled artillery systems, such as the 2 Sierra 34 Kolyetsa SV and the 2 Sierra 34 Kolsta, as Russia has only 5 to 6 machines that can produce these systems. I'm guessing it's the machining toolkits we talked about that Russia has been sending. China's been sending over to Russia. Like that. Sky News, citing an open source research from U.S.-based consulting firm Bain & Company, reported on 26 that Russian defense industrial producers will likely produce or be able to manufacture and refurbish 4.5 million artillery shells in 2024. That's about 375,000 shells per month, suggesting that Russia may be refurbishing more shells than it is producing. So again, they're digging into their stockpiles, but that they're able to pull out 4.5 million shells per year, and that their GDP is so much smaller than the West. It is shameful. I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's just Russia is out competing the West in this regard. This is an artillery war, and they're outproducing us. I don't know what to say. It is just embarrassing.
They're feeling a stronger sense of urgency than we are in the West, because it's not our men getting killed. It's not our cities getting shelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's apathy towards the Ukrainian plight.
It is, and I'm tired of it. So anyway, politics. The Russian military continues to advertise large payment of sums and suspension of debts, loans, and criminal charges. It keeps seeing this number go up. I just like putting out the new numbers. So there's a military advertisement for a one-time payment of $14,700 now, and a monthly payment of $2,400 as a monthly salary, in addition to suspension of judicial proceedings on debts and loans, and expunging that criminal record if anyone signs up for military contract service for the Russian military. Again, Konstantin Mashevets provided additional detail regarding the VDV forces use of assault companies. He stated that the classic VDV assault company consists of 5 assault platoons. Mashevets stated that the classic assault company consists of 1 platoon, 1 support platoon, a recon platoon, and a drone platoon that utilizes quadcopters and FPV drones. He also stated that each platoon consists of roughly 19 personnel. So, yeah, except for the fire support platoon that is staffed with roughly 29 personnel. Mashevets stated that the VDV forces often attack in groups of 1 or 2 platoons, but rarely use all 5 due to difficult combat conditions and high personnel turnover rates due to Russian losses. So just interesting to note, a little bit, numbers game and playbook stuff I like to share with you guys. Satellite imagery reportedly indicates Russian forces have lost a significant number of tanks and armored vehicles in the war. There was some stuff floating around YouTube that, based on some of this stuff, that Russians have lost like 1,000 T-80s or something like that. I didn't watch the whole thing because usually those are just clickbait videos. But anyway, I'll give you some of the other stuff here. So a German news outlet from Süddeutsche Zeitung used AI to examine satellite imagery taken between 2021 and 2024 of 87 Russian military sites, including 16 that store tanks and armored vehicles, and found that several tank and armored vehicle store sites are empty. The analysis found that one base housed 857 tanks in April 2021, then 431 in October 2022, and is nearly empty as of June 2024. The IISS research analyst Michael Gestard told SZ, the Süddeutsche Zeitung, that Russia has roughly 3,200 tanks in stock, but that the majority of them are in bad condition. Rusi, who we do appreciate their work, published a report on the 26th stating that Russia plans to produce 1,500 tanks and 3,000 armored fighting vehicles, but again, 85% of these are refurbished from storage and not new production. So some stuff from mobilization in Ukraine. German outlet Handelsblatt reported that both Ukrainian and German representatives confirmed that Rheinmetall, telling you guys buy their stock, that they've reached an agreement to produce Lynx armored vehicles in Ukraine in 2024. The EU also approved their first tranche of $1.5 million in military assistance to Ukraine from the proceeds of Russian assets. This is from the interest of those assets. The EU reported that 90% of the first payment is dedicated to Ukraine's defense needs, and the remaining 10% is dedicated to support Ukraine Facility Program, which is rehabilitation, recovery, and reconstruction in Ukraine. Zelensky replaced. So this is another interesting thing. It was kind of another Azov bit. Zelensky replaced Joint Forces Commander Lieutenant General Yuri Sodol with Brigadier General Andriy Hanatov on the 24th. Zelensky did not offer a reason for Sodol's dismissal, but supposedly through the grapevine, this was at the request of Azov after they sent an angry letter to the president's office, and within like a day he got fired. So I guess he wasn't that good. I didn't really get into the weeds with this one just because it'd be hard to chase it down. But yeah, so Sodol got replaced and dismissed supposedly after Azov sent an angry letter to Zelensky. So whether that's entirely valid or not, it might just be rumor mill. I don't know, but it did happen. So anyway, there's also a Ukrainian Brigadier General told the Wall Street Journal on the 24th that the Ukraine's security service is partnering with Ukrainian Navy and GUR to innovate and expand the utility Ukrainian naval drones. I thought this was really interesting. Ukraine aims to create squads of 10 to 20 drones with various functions that together will be able to replicate the capabilities of a single warship. This is something that's truly innovative. To put that many drones together in one area and to have them sync data together over what we call a Link 16 or a Link 11 data system. This is totally like radio nerd shit, guys. I apologize, but there's certain data signals that transmit data between ship to ship, ship to shore, ship to satellite, ship to air, everything else like that. But you can have all these systems interconnected together with probably these old systems like that, which I found interesting. But yeah, it was stated that Ukraine's Sea Baby naval drones can carry a larger payload than other naval drones. Specialized Sea Baby drones can lay mines that weigh up to 400 pounds in shallow water and use acoustic and electromagnetic sensors to detect passing ships. So if you imagine that you have a swarm of drones producing what an Arleigh Burke destroyer can do, it's just not possible due to the power plants that a destroyer has. I can't get into what the Aegis radar system could do in particular, but it can really fuck up an enemy's electronic warfare suite and the proximity of where it's being beamed at. But that Ukraine's being able to do this, though, is, again, innovative for a country that essentially has no navy. Anyway, again, navy shit. It's always fascinating to me. And lastly, it was reported that due to their Ukraine's fourth generation challenges, they're overcoming a little bit more on the 19th. The Ukrainian government processed over 645,000 electronic military registration documents in the first 2 days of launching Ukraine's new Reserve Plus mobile app for their military registration. So, and last thing, guys, a couple of rear activity notes. Russia is continuing to coerce passportization in an effort to pursue nationalization of seized Ukrainian properties. The Economist reported on the 19th that Russian occupation authorities in occupied Mariupol, it always comes from there, are leaving notices on residential blocks declaring that apartment owners that they must have Russian passports and documentation must re-register their properties with occupation admins, or else occupation admins will seize and nationalize the property. This is an ongoing thing. We've heard a lot of these projects, they'll evict the Ukrainian owners and just sell a new mortgage to people moving in from like Krasnodar Krai, Rostov, Voronezh, or Moscow, even some of these properties. And the government will just take that money and then probably just pocket it, right? So this is a form of, aside from corruption, I forgot the specific term for this though, but yeah, it was just
Jewelry.
Sure.
That's
Yeah, we'll go with that too.
My
Yeah.
mind. This is like something you would see in Harlem or up in like
slumlording.
Or
Yeah,
something.
basically, but it's like war zone slumlording, basically, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, the implications of this policy are clear. Russian occupation authorities requiring residents of occupied Mariupol to obtain Russian passports and other documents in order to keep their properties. And it was also noted what they do with these nationalized passport identification cards. They could bring them in the military. They've also withheld Medicare, Social Security payments for elderly and stuff like that. So, and even going to school is also harder for people. They don't have Russian passports. Lastly, Russian authorities continue to deport Ukrainian children to Russia. Stated that the Russian education minister claimed that Russian authorities will take 1,000 children from Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporizhzhia to the Red Carnation Children's Camp in occupied Berdyansk, Zaporizhzhia in summer 2024. Some other stuff. Luhansk, the LPR sources claimed on the 24th that Russian authorities took 115 Ukrainian children from occupied Krasnodon to the Paris camp in occupied Yevpatoria, Crimea. Plans to take more than 900 Krasnodon children to the Yevpatoria in summer 2024. And a lot more numbers there, guys. So the deportation of Ukrainian children continues. So that does it for the brief here, guys. Let me cancel that. There we go. All right. Okay. So we did that in pretty good time. Let me see here what we got with chat. Okay, yeah. So Maze Mine asks, is North Korea still sending arms to Russia? Yeah, they are. Gosh, I wish I could remember from last week because we had an info bit about how many containers they've sent over. The amount of artillery ammunition, is numbered in over the millions now for North Korea to be sent to Russia, at least by estimates, because you can't count one for one of these containers. But supposedly that's what happened. I don't think how to put it, like, they have not fired the entire supply of North Korean shells, but there's so much there it's now stockpiled. So, if it's over 1 million shells, like it's quite a lot to shoot through. So I wouldn't say it's slowed down, but it's not, it's not being pumped out still. So anyway, I've heard that North Korea sent an engineer team to study the war. That could lead them to learn sending troops later to gain combat experience. I think it's like a combat liaison officer, what they call that. I'm not sure. This is from Camille again. I'm not sure Russia wants more North Korean artillery that fires. They fired, but the loads weren't consistent, targeting an act, which is true. Yeah, they'd either shoot low or shoot far. That's what I've been told too. Also, maybe sometimes explode the what do you call that? I can't remember right now. The breach. Yeah, it would explode the breach in the whole mechanism there. Anyway, that does it for the first part of the show, guys. I think we caught up on chat and everything. So yeah, YouTube. Anyone that is over there right now, let me check on chat there. See anything? If you guys want to join us over on Odyssey, please do so. Type in Warcast or Radio Ruin for a channel seek, and then you'll find us in the live part of the show there. Due to the content of the second half of the show, we're going to cut it off here. And have a good day if you're not going to follow us over. So, have a good day.